of introducing the use of AI in education currently. So this is on screen. You can see ChatGPT, much in the news recently, mainly because of a 10 billion further investment into it from Microsoft. So Microsoft is looking to implement this in all of its Office products, from OneNote to already in Word, but further in Word, Teams, and obviously it's in Bing and it's Edge browser and so on. So it's going to be fully integrated as a way for a different way for people to converse with and to find information, which is why potentially it's slightly disruptive to Google, and why Google are reacting quickly, because of the advertising model with the search. It's quite well established, and obviously having a conversational model, that is a different approach that needs some thought from the tech companies. If I show you one example of its use, so a very simple example here. I've asked ChatGPT to do a gap-fill activity on GCSE computer science. The key to using this is to do some research, find out what makes a good prompt, how you can use this effectively, rather than just copying and pasting a question in and the answer might be flat. So if you want anything good, you need to use it sort of well, and even then it's got its limitations, which I'll speak to at the end of this short video. So using it to make worksheets. So the idea is using it to take a lot of the work out of producing this. You may take this and adapt it, but it gives you a starting point to work with, and of course you can take it further in terms of voice of the language back. If I go to failed attempt at humour, where I was playing around just trying to get it to be a bit more interesting. So, the voice, you've got to pay reference to the voice, how you want it to be. So I've said self-deprecating, reflective and slightly resigned programmer who's questioning the effectiveness of their teaching method. Also applying a degree of humour. It should include 2 references to the TV show EastEnders. And then, of course, you get something a little bit more interesting. Again, could be a starting point, and you might adjust it depending on what you want to do. I've also tried to use it a little bit more creatively, with getting it to write a narrative between 2 sorting algorithms. One's better than the other, to try and put that in a narrative. It didn't do it too badly, but it wasn't too great as well. It needs more guidance in what it writes to be really effective. Now, on screen here is Notion AI. So this is kind of how OneNote might look once it's integrated. So I've asked it to come up with some project ideas, seems similar way to ChatGPT, or coming up with some programs or problems. Asked it to mind map coastal erosion. Again, it gives me a starting point. So these things you use, so you sort of on the page, like here, I can type something, I add lists, but I might press space to get the AI up, and then I might ask it to summarize the above, or, here's some text, can you put it into 8 bullet points or something like that? And you can use it in a bit more fluid workflow way. As a creative writing partner, people suggest, and similar to that in programming, as a ghostwriter. So it helps you fill out the code, it does some of the work for you, but it works with you. You're still leading and driving and creating. It's just helping you work quicker. It's the productivity, tool. There's a website called There's an AI for that, if you want to explore potential uses out there. Obviously, there's thousands, and more specific models are used by companies in their business, internally and customer facing. But there are many use cases that can take some of the function and do them well. And of course, Microsoft Teams already has, in terms of Teams, as in the workflow between dons and students, it has all those insight tools, but also in terms of meetings, it can do transcription and intelligent recap and summarizations of meetings, and put things on calendars. If people have action points, they'll go automatically on calendars. So automation is possible. Whether it's preferable is another question. So just to summarize, from a Don's point of view, resource generation, assessment, of course, generating questions. Seneca already have auto marking AI, which I tried. It's terrible. It doesn't work. But maybe in a year or two, as it gets more use, it will get better. And again, thinking about exam boards and the amount of data that they have, if they can work on that data to put it in a way where they can put it into the models, then it may be an excellent tool for revision or generating questions at GCSE or A-level perhaps. Student tracking and monitoring progress and feedback, of course, that will perhaps, there's a way for that. Meetings, as just stated, with Teams Meet and so on. Students, well, it's a different way to interact rather than just searching with Google. They might search with Google, but having that conversational approach can be quite effective in terms of finding out information. It's a different way to interact. Summarize large text is another useful tool just to save some time. Perhaps insights into learning, their own learning that is, rather than the teacher as well. Of course, their own insights, how they're doing, how they're progressing, and visualizing their progress data within a subject or across all their subjects and so on. These tools are becoming useful from their point of view. They can use it themselves, creating models themselves as a tool to find out information. So we do this in JP with newspaper headlines. Train a model with lots of different examples of newspaper headlines, and then chuck a new headline it hasn't seen, and it'll sort of say, yes, it's from the Guardian or it's from the Times, etc. So there's lots of ways in which they can kind of start to use some easy ways to use machine learning tools without building them themselves, but just using them to find out information about something. As you saw, co-writers for writing code to solve various problems. There's a more advanced tool than just using an app. They can start to write some of their own tools to do what they need, whether that's in text-based in terms of literary inquiry, or whether it's for programming or science. There's lots of applications in obviously coding, and that may take some of the strain out and time out of that process. And of course, there will be integration shortly into many of the products that they use, whether that's through the web and search, or whether it's through OneNote and so on. But there are some considerations for its use. So we do need to think about validity, bias, accuracy, the sources of these information. So much to consider and much to hopefully meet and talk about in the coming weeks and months, so we can adapt our policies and make sure that we are ahead of this and ready to use it effectively, and also to mitigate some of the risks, whether that's using plugins like Turnitin within Teams to take some of the checking of inappropriate use of these tools. But it needs some consideration to get this in place so we're effective. I'd just like to highlight the recent BCS study that was done only a couple of weeks ago on 50 schools, highlighted that I think only 10% of schools have started to think about this and have some kind of policy in place. So it will be good to get ahead of this, as said. Thank you.